On January 7, 1942, Adolf Hitler sat at his headquarters in East Prussia and delivered a judgment about America that would ultimately determine Germany's destiny. He told his closest advisors that he saw little future for the United States. In his view, the country was already in decline, burdened by racial tensions and deep social inequalities. He claimed that American society showed clear signs of being partly Judaized and partly shaped by black influence, and questioned how such a nation could possibly remain united. At the same time, nearly 7,000 miles away in Richmond, California, a 57-year-old industrialist named Henry Kaiser was sitting in a small shipyard office, sketching ideas on a piece of hotel stationery. He had never built a ship before. His background was in constructing dams, highways, and bridges. Ships, however, were another matter altogether, far more complex and demanding. Established shipbuilders claimed that constructing a cargo ship required about 8 months. Kaiser studied the rough sketch he had drawn and told his team they would complete one in just 4 days. Hitler was convinced that Americans were weak and complacent. Kaiser was about to prove that belief disastrously wrong. This fatal misunderstanding had taken root well before the first shots of the war were fired. In the years leading up to the conflict, German military intelligence produced detailed assessments of America's industrial strength, military preparedness, and national character. Their findings were strikingly uniform. The United States, they concluded, was a country of merchants and consumers, not fighters. In 1939, the American army was among the smallest in the world, smaller even than Portugal's. Its factories focused on producing cars and household appliances rather than tanks and warplanes. After years of peace and prosperity, the population was seen as comfortable and unwilling to endure hardship. Hitler's advisors dismissed American claims about wartime production as mere exaggeration. When President Franklin Roosevelt announced in May 1940 that the United States would manufacture 50,000 aircraft annually, the German High Command laughed it off as impossible. 8T that time. American military aircraft production totaled fewer than 3,000 planes a year. The suggestion that output could grow nearly 20-fold seemed ridiculous. Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe and one of Hitler's closest allies, shared this scorn. He had personally overseen the rise of the German Air Force from nothing into Europe's most feared aerial power and understood what was required to build modern combat aircraft. Such production demanded extreme precision, rare and specialized materials, a highly trained workforce, and years of experience refining manufacturing techniques, advantages Göring believed America lacked. The idea that the United States could transform automobile factories into aircraft plants struck him as absurd. German generals also drew on past experience. During the final year of the First World War, American troops had arrived in France and performed competently, but they entered the conflict late, suffered far fewer losses in European armies, and played only a limited role in shaping overall strategy. Memories of those inexperienced green soldiers reinforced the belief that Americans lacked the toughness needed for prolonged warfare. Albert Speer, who would later become Hitler's Minister of Armaments, often attended dinner conversations where America was discussed. Hitler repeatedly insisted that the United States had played only a minor role in the war of 1914 to 1918. A conviction that further deepened Germany's disastrous underestimation of its future enemy. They had not paid a heavy price in blood, and Hitler insisted they would never survive a true trial by fire because their fighting ability was weak. In his view, there was no real American people bound together as one nation. Instead, he described the United States as nothing more than a collection of immigrants drawn from countless countries and races. This racial thinking lay at the core of Hitler's ideology. He believed the nation's power came from racial purity and uniformity. Germany, what he imagined to be its Aryan bloodline, was therefore destined for superiority on the battlefield. America, which he saw as a mixed society of immigrants, Jews, and African Americans, could never equal the martial spirit of the German Volk. Yet this German judgment contained a critical and fatal error. They evaluated America's potential based solely on how it appeared in peacetime. Because the nation had not yet mobilized, they assumed it was incapable of doing so. They observed factories producing consumer goods and concluded those same factories could never turn out weapons of war. They saw diversity and mistook it for weakness. They were wrong on every count. America's transformation began even before it formally entered the conflict. In the summer of 1940, after France had fallen and Britain stood under relentless attack, President Roosevelt called on American industry to achieve what he described as a miracle of production. Automobile plants would cease making cars. Appliance factories would stop producing refrigerators. Every machine tool, every press, and every assembly line across the nation would be redirected toward the manufacture of weapons for war. This was far more than a simple appeal for action. It amounted to a complete overhaul of the American economy. In 1941 alone, American factories produced more than 3 million automobiles. During the following 4 years, only 139 additional cars would be built. Virtually the entire auto industry was converted to the manufacture of weapons and military equipment. Chrysler began producing aircraft fuselages. General Motors turned out airplane engines, guns, trucks, and tanks. Packard manufactured Rolls-Royce engines for the Royal Air Force. Firms that had never produced anything more hazardous than household appliances quickly learned how to make ammunition. This transition occurred with astonishing speed because American industry possessed strengths the Germans had failed to recognize. The crucial advantage was standardization and the use of interchangeable parts. U.S. factories had long perfected mass production methods that allowed components made in different plants to fit together seamlessly. A carburetor built in Ohio could be installed in an engine assembled in Michigan, and then power a vehicle put together in California. This system, refined over decades for civilian goods, was now applied to the tools of war. Skeptics argued it was impossible. Airplanes, they said, were not cars. You could not stamp out a bomber the way you stamped out a Ford. The required tolerances were far tighter, the systems far more intricate. A single heavy bomber contained more than 1 million individual parts, compared to roughly 15,000 in an automobile. Henry Kaiser paid no attention to such doubts. In December 1940, he secured a government contract to build 30 cargo ships for Britain. At the time, he owned no shipyard, had no background in ship construction, and employed no workers trained in maritime building. What he did have was a system and the confidence to apply it. This was not simply a rallying cry. It marked a complete transformation of the American economy. In 1941, U.S. factories produced more than 3 million cars. Over the next 4 years, that number would rise by only 139. Almost the entire automotive industry was repurposed for the manufacture of weapons. Chrysler shifted to building aircraft fuselages. General Motors began producing airplane engines, firearms, trucks, and tanks. Packard took on the task of manufacturing Rolls-Royce engines for the British Air Force. Businesses that had once made nothing more hazardous than household appliances quickly learned how to turn out ammunition. This rapid conversion was possible because American industry possessed strengths the Germans had failed to grasp. The decisive advantage was standardization and interchangeable parts. American factories had long led the way in mass production methods that allowed components made in different locations to fit together without issue. A carburetor produced in Ohio could be installed in an engine built in Michigan and power a vehicle assembled in California. These techniques, refined over decades for civilian goods, were now redirected toward production of weapons. Critics insisted it could never work. Airplanes, they argued, were not cars. You could not manufacture a bomber the same way you stamped out a Ford. The tolerances were far more exacting, the systems vastly more complicated. A single heavy bomber contained more than 1 million parts, compared to about 15,000 in an automobile. What he did possess was a method and the confidence to make it work. The system itself was a decisive factor. Kaiser did not approach shipbuilding the way traditional shipbuilders did. To him, it was not a craft but a manufacturing challenge. The end product, whether a ship, a dam, or a highway, mattered less than the method used to produce it. Any industrial task, he believed, could be studied, divided into parts, refined, and expanded. Conventional shipbuilders relied on skills passed down through long apprenticeships. A master riveter, for example, might spend years perfecting his trade. Kaiser did not have that luxury. Time was measured in months, not years. So he created processes that workers could learn in a matter of days. Wherever possible, he replaced manual labor with machinery, investing heavily in equipment that could perform tasks once done by hand. Established shipbuilders insisted this strategy would fail. Ships, they argued, were too intricate and the sea too harsh. Vessels assembled by inexperienced workers, they warned, would never survive. Kaiser proved them wrong. His ships were not only completed far more quickly than those built in traditional yards, they were also of higher quality. The rate of defects in Kaiser's shipyards was less than half that of conventional yards. The same disciplined, systematic methods that increased speed also raised standards. Kaiser applied the principles that had allowed the Hoover Dam to be completed ahead of schedule. He divided ship construction into modular sections. Instead of building a vessel piece by piece from the keel upward on a single slipway, he prefabricated large sections in multiple locations and then assembled them like blocks. He replaced riveting with welding, a faster technique that required less highly skilled labor. To support this massive effort, Kaiser recruited workers from all over the country. He constructed housing for them, set up child care centers for their families, and created a healthcare system to keep the workforce healthy, stable, and productive. The conversion of everyday Americans into skilled shipbuilders occurred at a speed that overturned all accepted assumptions. Men and women who had never seen the sea, never handled a welding torch, and never stepped inside a factory learned how to build ships in a matter of weeks. Kaiser's training programs were relentlessly practical and efficient. In just 10 days, a new hire could be trained as a capable welder, and within 30 days, that worker could function as a productive member of a shipbuilding crew. These workers came from every corner of the country. There were farmers from Oklahoma driven off their land by drought, factory hands from Detroit laid off during the Depression, women who had never held jobs outside their homes, and African Americans seeking opportunities long denied to them in the segregated South. At its height, the workforce in Kaiser's Richmond shipyards exceeded 90,000 people, with women making up nearly one-third of the total. The women employed in these factories became powerful symbols of America's wartime mobilization. They drilled rivets, welded steel seams, and installed electrical systems, tasks that had been considered exclusively male before the war. The government highlighted their contributions through posters and films that portrayed strong, determined women at work on factory floors. These images became enduring icons of the home front effort. Across the nation, thousands of women like them were working in shipyards and aircraft plants, demonstrating that the labor force could grow and adapt in ways German planners had never imagined. Traditional shipbuilders looked on in shock. For decades, they had constructed ships the same way and believed they understood the limits of what could be done. Kaiser's approach broke every rule they knew. Ships, in their view, were meant to be riveted, not welded. They were supposed to be built piece by piece on a single slipway, not assembled from sections made in separate workshops. Skilled workers were expected to train for years, not weeks. Yet despite violating all these conventions, Kaiser's system succeeded. In 1941, building a Liberty ship, the standard cargo vessel of the war, took an average of 230 days. By 1942, Kaiser shipyards had slashed that time to 45 days, then to 30, and eventually to just 20 days. In November 1942, the Richmond Yard achieved something unprecedented, completing the Liberty ship Robert E. Peary in only 4 days and 15 hours. From the moment the keel was laid to the launch of the finished ship, less time passed than it took a German U-boat to cross the Atlantic. This created a strategic crisis the Germans had never foreseen. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of Germany's U-boat force, had built his entire strategy on a simple assumption. Submarines would destroy Allied shipping faster than the Allies could replace it. In early 1942, that calculation seemed correct. German U-boats roamed the American East Coast during what they called the Second Happy Time, sinking hundreds of merchant ships within sight of land. Oil tankers burned off the coast of Florida. Cargo ships were sunk within view of New Jersey beaches. Reinhard Hartigen, captain of U-123, was one of the first commanders to operate in American waters. In January 1942, he torpedoed ships so close to shore that the glow of city lights reflected off the smoke rising from the wrecks. The Americans had failed to enforce blackouts or organize convoy systems, appearing almost defenseless. Hartigen sank 8 ships on his first patrol and returned to Germany as a celebrated hero. Other U-boat captains followed his example. During the first 6 months of 1942 alone, German submarines sank nearly 400 ships along the American coastline. The losses were devastating. Oil meant to fuel Allied armored forces washed ashore on Atlantic beaches. Food destined for British civilians settled on the ocean floor. Vital raw materials disappeared beneath the waves. Donuts was convinced he was winning. The destruction exceeded even his most hopeful expectations. If the trend continued, Britain would be choked off, and the American war effort would fail before it could fully mobilize. Yet even as U-boats continued to tally victories, American shipyards were increasing their output at an ever faster pace. In 1942, American shipyards launched roughly 8 million tons of new shipping. The following year, that figure surged to 19 million tons. By the autumn of 1943, newly built ships finally began to outnumber losses for the first time in the war. For every vessel a U-boat destroyed, 2 more took its place. Donuts followed these statistics with growing unease. His submarines were sinking ships at a pace that would have secured victory in the First World War. But this was a very different conflict. Germany was now facing an opponent whose industrial strength was almost impossible to grasp. The arithmetic was unforgiving. Donuts estimated that his U-boats needed to destroy 700,000 tons of shipping each month to cut Britain off completely. In 1942, they nearly achieved that goal. By 1943, however, American shipyards alone were launching more than 1 million tons every month. The objective kept shifting farther away, always just out of reach. The situation worsened as the Americans adapted. The early catastrophes along the East Coast had revealed serious weaknesses in anti-submarine defenses. Convoy systems were introduced, long-range aircraft were sent to patrol shipping routes, and new technologies, such as radar and improved sonar, gave the defenders capabilities they had previously lacked. By May 1943, Donuts had no choice but to pull his U-boats out of the Atlantic. In that single month, 43 submarines were destroyed. The amount of shipping they sank no longer justified the losses they suffered. The Battle of the Atlantic, essential for Germany's plan to choke Britain into submission, was effectively lost. The U-boat crews who survived the disaster returned to occupied France stunned. They had gone to sea convinced they were winning, only to discover that the balance had decisively turned against them. They returned to their bases fully aware that defeat was inevitable. The once easy convoys they had stalked now sailed under heavy escort that U-boats could no longer break through. Allied aircraft, once a rare threat, now seemed omnipresent. The technological edge German submarines had enjoyed had vanished. What unfolded at sea was mirrored in the air. Near Detroit, Ford Motor Company's Willow Run plant became a powerful symbol of America's industrial strength. Designed by renowned industrial architect Albert Kahn, the massive facility covered more than 3.5 million square feet, making it the largest factory under a single roof anywhere in the world. Its mission was to mass-produce the B-24 Liberator, a 4-engine heavy bomber far more complex than anything Ford had ever attempted to build. The obstacles were enormous. Each B-24 contained over 1 million parts and more than 300,000 rivets in 550 different sizes. It demanded a level of precision unfamiliar to the automobile industry. Ford's production chief, Charles Sorensen, examined the methods used by Consolidated Aircraft, the plane's original manufacturer, and found them outdated. Bombers were being assembled outdoors, largely by hand, using techniques that had changed little in decades. Sorensen proposed a radical solution. Bombers would be built on a moving assembly line, just like cars. Critics dismissed the idea as madness. Dutch Kindleberger, head of North American Aviation, mocked the plan, saying one could not turn a blacksmith into a watchmaker overnight. The skepticism was understandable. Aircraft production differed fundamentally from automobile manufacturing. Cars could tolerate small variations and still operate. Aircraft could not. Minor flaws could be fatal. Precision had to be measured in thousandths of an inch. The materials were specialized alloys that behaved unlike automotive steel. Hydraulic, electrical, and pneumatic systems all had to function flawlessly at 25,000 feet in freezing temperatures. Ford struggled at first. Constant design changes ordered by the government disrupted the assembly line. Workers had to master entirely new skills. Newspapers ridiculed the plant, jokingly calling it Willow Run instead of Willow Run. Senator Harry Truman launched an investigation into the delays and openly questioned whether Ford could meet its commitments. The challenges were real. Consolidated aircraft continued to alter the B-24 design based on combat feedback, and each modification forced Ford to reconfigure its production line. Expensive tooling became useless overnight. Workers trained for one task had to be retrained for another. Ford's response was characteristically relentless. The company assigned 200 engineers to work nonstop, translating Consolidated's hand-drawn sketches into precise, standardized manufacturing plans. They generated nearly 5 miles of technical drawings every day. When changes rendered those plans obsolete before they could even be used, Ford's engineers simply began again, without hesitation or complaint. The company also spread production across multiple locations. Rather than manufacturing entire aircraft at Willow Run, Ford established a wide network of subcontractors that produced individual components, which were then shipped to the main factory for final assembly. Engines arrived from Buick's plant in Flint. Propellers were supplied by Hamilton Standard in Connecticut. Landing gear was produced by Goodyear in Ohio. Coordinating this flow of parts would have been unmanageable for any organization without decades of experience in supply chain management. By 1944, these challenges had been overcome. Willow Run reached a production rate of 1 B-24 bomber every 63 minutes. At its peak in April 1944, the factory completed 453 aircraft in a single month. During a remarkable 72-hour period between April 24th and April 26th, 100 fully assembled bombers took off from Willow Run, ready for service. The workforce operated on an intense schedule, 2 9-hour shifts each day, 6 days a week. The remaining 6 hours were reserved for resupplying parts, servicing equipment, and changing tooling. Even under this punishing tempo, rising efficiency meant fewer workers were needed. The workforce at Willow Run shrank from 42,000 employees to just 17,000, while output remained the same. Each bomber required progressively less labor to produce. Eventually, the Army Air Forces asked Ford to slow production. They simply had nowhere to put all the planes. Training bases were overflowing with B-24s parked wing to wing, waiting for crews. Industrial output had outpaced the military's ability to absorb and deploy the aircraft. Across the nation, American aircraft production reached levels the German high command had once dismissed as fantasy. In 1944 alone, the United States manufactured more than 96,000 military aircraft, more than Japan produced during the entire war. Between 1940 and 1945, American factories turned out nearly 300,000 aircraft, supplying roughly 2/3 of all Allied military equipment. The magnitude was almost impossible to grasp. At its height, U.S. industry was producing more aircraft in a single month than Germany had possessed at the beginning of the war. Assembly lines ran nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Shifts rotated at midnight, noon, and again at midnight. The factories never shut down. Put into concrete terms, 300,000 aircraft lined up wingtip to wingtip, which stretched more than 30,000 miles, enough to circle the Earth at the equator. Flying them required a vast petroleum system of its own, tankers, pipelines, and refineries dedicated solely to aviation fuel. Crewing them demanded an enormous training network that processed hundreds of thousands of young men, transforming civilians into combat pilots in less than a year. Yet even these figures fail to capture the full scale of American mobilization. Behind every aircraft, ship, and tank stood a supply chain reaching back to mines, forests, and farms across the continent. Aluminum was refined from bauxite shipped from South America. Rubber came from plantations in Liberia and Brazil after Japanese expansion cut off Asian sources. Cotton for uniforms was harvested in the South. Food flowed in from a nation's agricultural heartland. The entire economy pivoted toward war. Women who had never worked outside the home learned to operate machines their mothers had never seen. African Americans migrated north to take industrial jobs previously denied to them. Rural families moved into booming factory cities. where housing shortages were so severe that people lived in shifts, day workers sleeping in beds just vacated by night workers. The social upheaval matched the scale of the Industrial Revolution. Germany began to pay the price for its miscalculation in the skies over Europe. German pilots were among the most highly trained in the world, and their aircraft, especially fighters like the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf 190, were powerful and deadly machines. In one-on-one encounters, German pilots often outflew their American opponents. By contrast, the early American bomber crews were dangerously inexperienced. Many pilots had logged fewer than 300 total flying hours when they were sent into combat. Navigational mistakes caused entire formations to drift miles off target. Bombing accuracy was poor, and coordination with fighter escorts was often flawed. German pilots exploited these weaknesses with brutal efficiency. The Luftwaffe developed specialized tactics to disrupt bomber formations and destroy isolated aircraft from beyond the effective range of defensive machine guns. Yet the losses mounted relentlessly. For every German plane shot down, American factories produced 3 more. For every seasoned German pilot killed, the United States could train 5 replacements. The Luftwaffe began to bleed itself dry, not from a single catastrophic defeat, but from a steady pressure of an enemy that could absorb punishment and continue advancing. Head-on attacks at closing speeds exceeding 600 miles per hour gave bomber gunners only seconds to respond. German fighters armed with rockets could strike from outside defensive fire. Still, the outcome was inevitable. Germany was being worn down slowly and inexorably by the sheer weight of an opponent whose resources seemed endless and whose capacity to replace losses never stopped. American training systems themselves operated like factories. Flight schools handled thousands of cadets at the same time. Instructors flew several training missions every day. Aircraft were plentiful because the same plants producing frontline fighters and bombers were also turning out training planes. The entire structure was built for volume, designed to convert untrained civilians into combat-ready airmen as efficiently as possible. By mid-1944, the Luftwaffe was suffering catastrophic losses. Roughly 25% of its air crews and 40% of its aircraft were being lost every month. No air force could endure such attrition for long. The so-called 1,000-year Reich simply did not have 1,000 years' worth of pilots to expend. Veteran German aviators who had entered the war with extensive training and hundreds of flight hours were increasingly replaced by young men with only weeks of instruction and a few dozen hours in the cockpit. Throughout 1944, the average experience level of Luftwaffe fighter pilots declined steadily. By the final months of the war, some German pilots were flying their very first combat missions with fewer than 100 total flight hours. The Americans, by contrast, continued to grow stronger. Early bomber crews had been painfully inexperienced, but those who survived the brutal raids of 1943 became the instructors who trained the crews of 1944. Combat lessons were absorbed, tactics refined, and equipment steadily improved. The arrival of the P-51 Mustang, with its long range and outstanding performance, finally gave bomber formations a fighter protection they had long lacked at Germany's miscalculation extended beyond industry to the actual fighting ability of American soldiers. In February 1943, U.S. ground forces clashed with the German army for the first time at Kasserine Pass in Tunisia. The outcome seemed to validate every German stereotype. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps smashed through inexperienced American positions. Units collapsed, troops fled, equipment was left behind, and command structures disintegrated. American losses exceeded 6,000 casualties. To many German officers who had long viewed Americans as weak, this battle appeared to confirm their assumptions. The American troops at Kasserine were inexperienced in ways that only real combat could expose. Many soldiers had never fired their weapons in battle. Officers who had trained for years under peacetime conditions found themselves overwhelmed once shots were fired in earnest. Radio communications failed, coordination between infantry and armor broke down, and confusion spread across the battlefield. Units that were meant to support one another instead fought alone and disconnected. Lieutenant Colonel John Waters, General George Patton's son-in-law, was among those taken prisoner during the collapse. He led an armored counterstrike against German positions near Sidi Bouzid, only for the attack to drive straight into a carefully prepared trap of German tanks and anti-tank guns. American armor was hit and set ablaze. Infantry units broke apart and fled. Waters was wounded, captured, and would spend the remainder of the war in a German prisoner of war camp. Accounts like it spread across the battlefield. Again and again, American forces were caught unprepared, and their artillery support was poorly coordinated. American troops galat jagahan par morche code rahida. Bina janch paddle ko American tank, alge bad rahida. Jo German fauj saw esi registan main ladra hiti, usin galtin ka pura fedo thea, or puri peshawar safai esi hamlakia. Shuru main Rommel eni nene American sinicon ko halka samja. Use wo anushasanin, or cams in the tritva kuneche lagda, Kasserine British faujon, communicable jins wo pitchel du salasi lad rahada. Kasserine kihar eni Germanon kuas vishwas ko, or majbu kar dia ki America ki zayada resources ko German siniki gunwada esi Horea jas sakta hai. Isladai ki reports Berlin pahunchi. One German intelligence adhikarian eni ace mulyankin tayarkai, Jo Hitler kupurain visharon ko sahi sabikardida. Unk mutabik Americans narmda, unk pasaman bahutta, lekin unk sinik kamzada. German ladaka jazba American industrial takat parbari padega. Lekin Romelit na kushal sanapati, the ki peli rai ko paka, faisal na banda. Usin Kasserine kabag kagatna kramen ko dian esi deka, or jo kuchus deka, usin yu shinta main dal dia. Americans eni heritangas tetsi esi kud ko sampolia. Har kukuch hai haftin ku andar hon apni faujon ka punagathan kia. Nakabal afsern ko ataya, or siki hui kathir sikan ko lagakia. General George Patton eni Hansla har chuk second corps ki command samhali, or apni mazbut icha shakti, esi use betel kar rakdia. Ladai katarik beitar hu. Infantry, tank or artillery kubich tamamel zayada mazbut hogaya. Hawaii madad peli esi zayada, a sardaban gai. Patton kudrat ki takat jaisada. Wo second corps par tufan ki teratut pada. Anashes and mangda. Lapravai par saxazadita, or apni sinai kansies mandan mangda. Jo unhon pelikabi por naikaida. Jo sapai Kasserine kihar kadoran dir kamkar rahida. Wo pital chankar rahida. Savin ki staitai main kadarati or apnis in dagi ki sabs kathan training. Esi guza rahida. Lekin Patton ka kam surf sakti thapna hai nahida. Usnyabi garai esi samja ki Americans kahan chagadi or ungaltian kil sudharn. Kulia das kadamadhe. Artillery kafor observers ko ne jagahan par tinat kiagaya. Tankon ki rananiti badly gai. Infantry any armor kusaf or nazdiki talmel sika. Kasserine ki ladai mile sabi sabaka vishulshin kiagaya. Ani likit rup diagaya or puri fauj main phileagaya. American fauj kapas nakami esi sikni ki ekmazbut santhagat sakti jisa German samage naipe. Kasserine Kobad, Army Cook Ground Forces Commander Lieutenant General Leslie McNair, Eni Puri Terajanch Ki Khan Galtian Huiti. Unknatij America Could Training Camps Tak Bijgay, Jahan Unhonan Divisions Ki Tayari Ko Prabhavik Kia. Jo Abi Morche Par Nai Pahunchta, February 1943 Ki, Galtian March 1943 Ka, Training Syllabus Bangain. Bad Main Rommel Eni Apni Observations Leaky. Usin Kaha Ki Dushman Ki, Defensive Rananiti Bilko High, Standard Ki T. Peli Jaka Kabat Americans Eni Bahut Jaldi Kud Ko Sambalia, or Jaw High Hamari But Hotri Ko Rockdia. Kai German Generals Ku Yulit, Rommel Eni Yagalti Nai Ki Americans Kasikni Ki Raftar Ko Kim Ankajay. Ida Hasker Carlo Dest, Jinhon Rommel Kakag Zak Kadian Kia. Like Hain ki Desert Fox any Kasserine kabat American Fauj kaber manek bat deki. Unki staitai tetsi esi sudhari ti. Rommel any lika. Hear me in France main pan ki army ka and azar karnapada taki chaldi furi ladai. Kasabs heritangas namunadi ken. Lekin shuruai de bai. Kabab main some mage guy the key main ace dushman ka samnakar ra. Hun jo surf betar hodajayega. May 1943 tak. Yani Kasserine kus surf ti mahin bad. North Africa ki jang kadam ho chuki ti. Lagbag 2, 75, 000 German or Italian Sinacadian Kukamp Main Cheoge, Yasanki Stalingrad Main Surrender Karnwal and SEB Zayadati. Joe Americans Kasserine Main Gabrigade, Wahib Jeetenwal Main Shamilda. America Key is Tesbali any German commanders KO Herain Cardia. Kyanki Uni Lagra the Kimeraldo Barban, Main Kafi Lamba Waklajaga. Unk Unabov Main Joe Units Buri Terra Hill Chuki Hoditi. Uni Apnik Shamada, Wapas Pon Main Mahin Lag Jata. Lekin Americans any Yakam Surf Kuch Hafta Main Kardai Kaya. Isi Dikni Wali Mansik Mas Buddy Shade Unki Batik Taket Esi. Bizayada Pershan Karnwali T. Tunisia Main Paktige German Cadian any American Logistics Dekkar Apni Herani Jatai. Gene American Sinai Kon Esi Unhon Ladai Ki. Unpas Goli Barud, Indin or Ration Jays, Cheese and Key Jays, Koi Sima Hainahi T. Jab German Units KO Supply Key Kami Hodi T. Ani Jugat Karna Padada. Jab American Units KO Kami Messes Hodi T. Nay Supplies Kuch Hai Dainan Main Pahunchjadi T. North Africa Campaign Ka Vishushin Karn Whale German Intelligence Atacarian. Kalia Sundesh Bilko Softa. Sadon or Utpadden Key Tacket Unabov Key Kami Key Bar Pi Kar Sakti High. Kasserine Main Americans KO Rananita Group SE Har Diagayada. Lekanut Padden Kamamo Main Unhi Kabi Piche Nai Chodagaya. Jab Tag American Factories Chalti Rehenji. American Faujan Ladi Rehenji. Sol Surfia the Key Kia Germany Itni Jaldi Jeet Sakti Hai Kiat Padden Ku is Anarkeo Bikar Karda. Tunisia Kabad is Sol Ka Jawab Mil Chukadi Nahi. Yahi Silsila Puri Jang. Kadoran Doreagaya. American Faujan Shuru Main Lagade. Lekanan Hombahut Tetsi Se Siko Lagatar Betar Hodi Chali Gain that J Osapai Tunisia Main German Tankon Se Bagada. Wyoge Chalkar Normandy Kinaran Par Udargay or France KO Par Cardi Hulat Rahi. Joe pilots Anab Havsri Luftwaffe veterans Kasamni Peli Pitchet Gada Wayakirka German Hawaii Fauj KO Osman Se Mita Dean Main Kamyab Hugh Yakud KO Badown or Sikni Keek Shaman American Sanston could dance main high Shamil T. Army could ground forces command any Morche Parladen Wali units or training Kendran ku beach Lagatar feedback Ka system ban Iraka. Har operation Kabad front SEIU reports Ka. Kuch high have to main Vishushan Hoda or Unhi Betel Hugh training programs main Ja Diajada. Rananidi or Doctrine Ko Maidani Jang ku unabove ku Adhar par update Kiajada. Sinai Khan any combat main Jo Samasim Batai. Unkazabasi Saman or Hathier main be bad lav kai gay. Yes system Sundar Yavaya Vastit Naida. Aksarya Avia Vastit or Afratafri Se Bara Hodada. Alagalag units Ek High Samasya. Kalia Lag How Nakalti T. Senaki Vibin Shekhan Kubich Talmel Pornroop Se Sai Naida. Lekanya Avia Vasta High Upog Sabirhui. Joe Visherkam A. Wotik Gay or Fail Gay. Joe A. Saful Hugh. Anicho Diagaya. Is Terra Puri Sans Dear Zayada Prabhavi Hodi Chali Gai. Bail Hai Kuchasun Ko Sang Harsh Karna Padaho. Iski Vipreet. German Sanya Sunskriti Kathy or Jam Chuki Sidhantan or Vyaktagat Wafadarian Ko IRD Gerd Simigai T. PLKO Pratsahit Nahi Kia Jadada. Asafalta Axar Career. Kalia Gudak Hodi T. Joe Kathorda Shurwadi Dor, Ki Shander Jeetan Ka Karen Bani T, Wai Parastidian Badown Par Boj Bangai. Where Mak Yajne and KO Bayanakashalta Se Lagakar Sakti T, Lekin Jab Wai Yajni and Big Adjadi T, Dunk Softdal Menus Mushkil Hodi T. Hitler Any is Kathorda KO, or be Badadia. Wool Lagatar Sign Operations Main Dakaldita, Apni Generals Kafazan KO Vishushin Kabajay Apni Sak, Ku Adhar Par Badal Dita. Commanders any Jaldi High Samage Liaki Führer, Se Asamadi Jatana Kam Se Kam Career, Ku Ankha Sabab and Saktada, or Kai Bar John, Kuliyabi Kutraho Saktada. Joe Imandar reports German Rananiti Ko Sudhar Saktiti, Anidaba Diagaya or Unki Jaga, AC Jang Kari Beji Gai, Joe Hitler Sunachadada. America or Germany Ki Sangathanik Sanskriti Ka, Sabs Bada Farknakami, Kasaf Vayavar, Main Daikai Dita. Jab American commanders a Saful Ota to Uni Hada Dia Jadada, Lekanam Torpar Unhi Saz and Nai Milti. General Lloyd Fredendall. Jinhon Kasserine Pass Ki Harka Dorn Command Sam Holly T. Anipat Sihata Kar. Wapas America Bej Dia Gaia. Jahan Anhone Sinai Khan KO Training D. Unka Anabov. Jiwo Asafo Haikian Narahaho. Upioji Managaya. Iski Repreet. German commanders Kulia Asafalta Surf Career Kahai Nai. Balki John Kabi Kutraban Sakti T. July 1944 Main Hugh Hattie Prayas. Kabad Hitler Kashak. Or Zayada Bad Gaya. Jean Generals Par Wafadari Par Sanahwa. Ani Mount Kagat Utar Dia Gaya. Yahan Tak Ki Safal to be Suraksha Ki Guarantee Naiti. Agar Wo Hitler Ka Achan Esita Krati T. Isab Ani Bilkul Galat Same Par and An User in Conformity. Ki Sungskriti Pada Kardi. Kai German officers Joe Apney Rananitik Staitai Kina Mumkanata Samage Chukta Chup Rena High Baitar Samage the Kyunki Sach Bolna. Biak Qatar Nakta. Hitler attacked Bahunchin Wali Jang Kari Kai Parat Nesi Chan Karjati T. Or Har Parrot Par Logwai Batkate. The Joe Hitler Sunachata. Naki Joe used Janaza Rorida. Kasserine Kabad be Jean German generals any American Ladaka Chamada Ko Kem Anka the Unhon Apni Sak Kabi Puri Terra Badly Nahi. Unhon American Safalta Ka Karen serve resources or Saman Ki Barma Ko Mana. Or a Sengathanik Seek Ko Swikar Karn Se Inkerkar Dia Jisn in resources Ko Prabhavi Banaya. Wo is Bram Main Bain Rai Ki German Siniki Jazba American Industry Par Bari Padega. Japki American Fajin Unhi France Se Dekel Kar. Rhine Kapar or Germany Kadil Takpich Hadarahi T. June 1944 Main Jab D-Daya. To France Main Tynat German commanders Hamel Kavister Se Dang Ray Gay. Peli Hai Din 1, 56. 000 SE Zayada Allied Siniki Ter. Gina Lagbag 7,000 Naval Jahazen or 11,000 aircraft Ka. Sahara Mila. IS Vishal Ball. Kyo English Channel. Kaparla Jana or Dushman Kulaka Menus Lagatar Supply Panchana. Ek Isa Sengathana Karnama. The Jisa German planners and the Mumkin Monteda. Is Hamel main American Yadde and Sapar Barida. Joe Salmon is assault KO Sambhal Rahada. Landing craft. Transport aircraft, tank, or trucks Joe Beaches Se Gay Bada. Unka Attic and Chis American factories Se Ayada. German to Cannon Par Gold Barsane, Whale Jahaz America, Kush Shipyards Main Bainda. Osman Par Adaptation Jaman Whale Aircraft American Assembly Lines Se Nikelda. German Rakshak Apney, Mash or Dritta, Kusaflade. Kuch Kshetra Main Unhon Hamla Karnwal and Ko Bari Nuxan Panchea. Lekan allies Kalehu Sinai Khan or Saman Kibiana Matra, Ku Age Wo Tiknaipe. Jab Jishi American Infantry Company Ka Samna, Majbut Raksha Whale Thaikinesi Hoda, to Wo Turan Artillery Madad, Kalia Baladi T. Iskibad Joe Artillery Firing Hui, Wo Surf Kuch Golan Tak Simit Nai T. Baki Sawan or Kabi Kabi Hazron Shells Exof Barase Jate, the Joe Raksha the Cannon Ko Puri Terra Chor Kardita. Jab Infantry Auge Body. To tank Unka Saharabant. Agar tank Auge Nai Badpate. To Hawaii Hamla Balaya Jada. Americans any combined arms KO. Is Terra Jadna Siklia. The key Unkila Daka Takakai Gunabad Jadi T. Eastern Front Par Lad Chuk German Sinai Khan Kakena. The key American Yud Shili Soviet Tariq Esia Lag T. Soviet Samasyan Par and San and KO Jonk Dite. Jabki Americans Machines Ka Istamal Kardida. Natija Lagbag Wai Hoda the Biena or Lagatar Takakaprayag. Lekan Americans Kalia and Sani Nuxan Cam Hoda the. Yet John Budge Kar Kiagayada. American Doctor Main Kulkar Firepower KO Manpower Par Tarjidi Gaiti. Jab Goli Barik Karch Karkakamho Saktaho. To Sinai Khan Ki John Kayanda Parlagai J. Hitler Ki Galat Anzajiri Kusar German Strategy Kahar Star Parpaid. Kyunki use lag to the key America Prabhavi Tariq Se Jang, main Shamal Nai Haga, Islias and Pearl Harbor Surf Char, Din Bad United States Par Ugasha Kardia, or Bina Zerur Ekne Dushman Ko Jang main Luaya. Kyunki use Vish was the key American industry Apnivadan Ko Pura Nai Karpaigi. Us an U-boat Apian Ko Tab Tak Jari Rendia Jab, Wo Rananita Group Se, Bikar Ho Chukada. Or Kyunki wo American Sinai Khan Ko Kamsa Samajda, the Us in Western Front KO Same Par Mazbut Na Ikea. Jab Tak Bahutter Ho Chuki T. December 1941 main America Kukalov, Yuki Gashna 26 Suddy, Kasaps, Samage Se Pair Rananitic Phase Main Se Ekmani Jadi High. Tripartite Pact Ku Tahat Germany Par, Yalazmi Nai, the key wo America Par Yugashikare. A Samjaw Commutabik Surface Hallet Main Ek Dusser Ki Madak Karni T Jab, Jishi Sathi Par Hamlaho. Naki Jab Koi Sathi Kud Dusran Par Hamlakare. Germany Chada to America Caprati Neutral Ray Sakta, the Jab Japan Pacific Main Ladai Lad Rahada. Hitler Kasala Karen Eni, Yebat Yu Sam Jane Ki Koshish Ki. Weich Muntri Joachim von Ribbentrop Eni Hitler Kil Ya Delaya Ki Ki Gashna Esi Bina, Jishi Fake Ek or Dushman Judjega. Lekin Hitler Eni in Chinton Kil Nazarandas Kar Dia. Uskamana the Ki America Esi Jang the Hona Hai Hai. Islai Peli Kadamatalina Hai Beitar Hai. Isi Bizayada Ahambat Yatiki wo America Kil Koi Mahatvapern Taket Mana Hai Naida. Uskinazar main America Nasi Rup Esi Mishrit. Vargib Hajit or Yehudi Prabhav Esi Bigda. Hua Deshta. Jo Jang Kanatij Parsar Hai Nai Dal Sakta. ISI Tarasker Bari Sak Eni Puri Jang. Kadoran German Strategy Ko Prabhavik Kia. Joe Resources U-Boat Fleet KO Mazbukar, Sakta, Anikahin, or Laga Diagaya. Kyanki American Industrial Katra KO Gamberta, see Nahi Liagaya. Joe Reinforcements North Africa Ki Raksham Mazbukar, Sakta, Ani Eastern Front Bej Diagaya. Kyanki Mediterranean Chetra Ko, Surf Ekgon, Secondary, Morchas Samja Jadada. Allied Hamilki Tayari Na Kafi Rihi. Kyanki American Takiku Asli Paimain Ko Samja Hai Nahi Gaya. Jean Lagon any American at Padden Ku Ankton Ko Surf Propaganda KH Car. Courage Kia the Unhon Unhai Ankton Ko Heiki Kat Bonhu Deka. Jean Generals any American Ladaka Kshamada Kamazak Adaya the Why Bad Main American Fajan Ku Auge Peach Hatten Par Majbor Hoge. Or Jean Ranikaran any Yazabla Gaya the Key Germany Lambia Attrition Warjeet Saktahai. Anisamage Aya Ki AC Jang Hameshas Pax Kahakmain Jadi Hai Jis Pasayada Din Ki Kshamada Ho. 1944 Tak Germany Teen Morshan Par Ladrihi T. Jabki Uski Pas Ek Morche. Kalia Bi Mushkil Esi Kafi Sadan. Eastern Front any German Senaki Adikinch Taket. Ko Nigolia. Mediterranean Kshetra any on divisions Ko Bonkar. Raka Jo France Ki Rakshakar Sakti T. Iski Sof High. Zayadatar American Vamanan Dwara Kalaya Gaya bombing of Bahian German industry. Or Sharon Ko Bari Nuxan Pahancha Rada. England could bases Se Yuden Barn Wali 8th Air Force NEB 17 or B. 24 heavy bombers could Jun Germany Par Din Kasame Hamlon Kulia Beach. Isakar Panasar American Industrial Shakti Ki Waja Se Mumkinda. Shurwadi raids main Bahut Zayada Nuxan Yuthanapada. German fighters or anti-aircraft guns any bari Kimat Vasuli, like Americans any in Nuxanon Keo Sa or Hameljari Rake. October 1943 Maine. Schweinfurt Cabal bearing factories Par Ekhai raid Kadorn 8th Air Force any 60 heavy bombers or Unki Cruise Cody. Hugh Nuxan German Air Force Kajishi be unabove Se Anupatic Group Se Coffee Zayadada. American commanders any is Batpar Charchaki Ki Kia Din Kusame bombing Jari Rockni Chahi. Like American factories, any ko Huviman surf Kuch half the main high Purakar dia. Training programs ko Zerorik Commutabik Bada dia Gaia, or Nei Cruise Lagatar Pahunkti Rihi. 1944 Ki Bahartak 8th Air Force Schweinfurt Se Peli Commutable or be Zayada Mazbut Ho Chuki T. Ab Uski Pas Lam Dare Ka escort fighters be the P. 51 Mustang, Joe Bombers KO Belintak, or Wapas Por Ras Surukshada Sakta, Luftwaffe Ek AC Staitai main fans Chuki T Jiskakoi Hel Nahida, Har Jarea Guy American Veman T Neva Mainin Se Badal Dia Jadada, Jabki Har Marhwa Unavi German pilot Kabi Pura Nai Ho Saktada, Attrition Kawo Sanchlin, Just Bear main German Ranidikran Kyo Lag the Key Unki Beitar training, or tactics, Kakaran Unkpaksh main Rahiga, of Ulta Ho Chukada. Hermann Göring. Just American up patent Kadawan KO Surf Kiali Batain Ka, Akhurka USI Industrial Tacket Kahathan Apni Air Force KO Nashto Hugh Dekni Par Majbor Wa Jiska Usmazaka Diada. Jang Kabad at jail interview, main goring any Sweekar Kia, Key American Shipbuilding Key Raftar, Kosker Henry Kaiser program, any German planners KO Herring, or Pershan Kardiada. 8 SE-10 din main Jahaz Tayar Hon, Kadave Uni Bilkalavishwasni Alagda, Lekenwo Dave Kopananai, Baki Sakhaida, Yabatain Bilkul Sahi Sabirwi. 1945 Ki Bahar Tak Hazar Salkar Rak Tutin Kagarparda. Pashimesi American or British Faujan, Algay Badrahiti, Jabki Parap si Soviet Sena, Garadalrahiti. German Shihar Dinrat Chown Wali bombing main Jiao Rahida, Jisa Rockney main Luftwaffe Bilkalasamarti. Weimar Kahathiar Banain, Wali factories Kandahar Ban Chukiti. Yuku Akrimahinan Eni Yasaf Kar, Dia Ki German planning Kitney Buri Teranakamrahiti. Rananidik, reserves Kadam Ho Chukta, Indian Lagbag Samatha, Parivahan via Vasta Bikar, Chukiti. Joe Industry Sail Intact Bombing Gel Car Tiki Rahiti. Wobi Apni Supply Chains Ko via Vasta Vinash Ko Auge Tukai. German Sapahi Apni Pechani Zid Kasaf Lat Rai. Lekanab Unkpas Ji Ki Koi Yumid Naiti. Goli Barud Ration, Main Mil Rahada. Indian Nahon Ki Waja, Esi Gadian Chadni Padrahiti. Naya Saman Pahunch Naban Ho Chukada. Kyanki use Banain Wali Factories Kam Hainai Karahiti. Joe Werma Kabi Yurakud Hickinch's Sun Park Cabs a Kar Chukiti. Wolf Supply Kalia Beek Mong JC Stida Main AA Gaiti. Iski Yulit. American Faujan Jays Unant Sadnan Esi Bari Hui Lagiti. Jab Tank Tabaut. Tanay Tank Pahunch Jade. Jab Goli Barud Kadam Hoda. Tor Goli Barud Mil Jada. Allied Advanced KO Sambhon, Wali Logistics via Vasta Kud Ek, Industrial Chamat Karti. Samundar or Madweep Kaparsi Lakan Tun, supplies frontline Tak Pahunchai Jarhiti. Normandy Breakout Kabad Allied Forces KO Supply Dean Waller Red Ball Express. Joe Truck Convoys Ka X System D. Surf Team Mahina Main 4, 00, 000 Ton Saman Lugaya. American Drivers. Gene Main SE Kai African American, Joe Alag Thou Transportation Units, Main Sevita Rahida, Din Rakadin Chala Car Fuel, Goli Barud or Kanawage Body Fajan Takpa Hunchet Rahi, Ya Convoy Jayasena KO Support Cardada, Usibi Zayada Indian Karch Cardada, Lekin America Kupasandin Ki Koi Kaminaiti, Germany Kupasti, Ya Barpur Aplabda American Sanya Operations, Kuharpela Main Daikai Dediti. American Sipahayan KO Garam Bojan Milta. German Sipai Bojan Ki Talash Main Bataktida. American units Kupas AC Medical via Vasta. T Joe Gyal Sign Icon. KO Kuch Hai Gan Main Field Hospitals Takpa Hunchadeti T. German Gyal Aksar Bina Lodge Ku Inazar Main High Marjata. American Faujan Kupas Karab Hugh Saman. Kulia Tour Replacement Parts Ota. German Faujan. Iski Yulit. Ek Gadi KO Chalu Rockney, Kalia Dusri Tudi Huigadayan, Kapur's Nickel Karkam Kaladi T. April 30th, 1945 KO Hitler Apni Bunker Main Margaya. Furby use Yakin Ki Uska and Daza Saida. Uski Mutabik Agar Germany Hari. To a sly Nai Ki Uski Sak Galati. Balki a sly Ki German Logus Parker and Nayuter. Uski Generals any use Doka Dia, or Kismat Uski Kalaf Hogai. Usankabi ya Sweekar Naikia Ki America Kuber main Uski Bunyadi Sakai Galati. Akri Dainan main Hitler Kalpnik Miracle Weapons Ki Batain Carter Raha Joe Jang Karuk Betel Dean Waliti. Undivisions Ka Zikr Carter Ra Joe Surf Kagazan Par Maljati. Or Ace Counteroffensives Kasapin Dekta Ra Joe Kabi Kamiab Hohai Nahi Sakta. Wo Salin Pelihai Haki Kat Se Kat Chukada. Lekin America Ki Kamzori KO Lekker Uski Bram Antak Bain Rai. JIS Desh KO Us Nasi Tor Pargatia or Industrial Roop Se Nakara Samja. The USI Any Uski Fajan KO Kukuldia. Sabut Bilkul Softa. JIS Rashdra KO Us and Sudi Gali Hui Takikaha. The Us in Germany Se Lagbag Tinguna. Zayada Padankia. Jean Lagon KO Us Narm. Kahada, Unhon do some mundrin kapar drita or kathorda kasafladai lady. JIS Industrial Shakti KO Hitler any propaganda bataya the WWII Steel or Vasvadakon Kuselab Ki Terra Wehrmacht Partut Padi. Ankti Kakahani KHD Hain. You could Dornbane Lagbag du Thai Allied Sanyasam America Key Industry any dia. 297 000 aircraft 86,000 tank 193 000 artillery guns or 20 lakh army trucks. Yasenki and Koi propaganda nahi ti, Baki Heki Kat ti. You could bad Henry Kaiser Koi Rashtriya Nayak Bankar Sami Nayaya. Wo Wapa's private industry main Chalagaya or bad main hospitals. Gadian or housing project Banain Laga. Jean shipyards Se Har Kuch Dainan. Main Eknaya Jahaz launch hodada. Ani ban kar diagaya Shanti Kudur ki production Kalia Betel diagaya. Jean Mazduran, any wo kar daikaya Jisa Bade expert in the Mumkin Kate. The wo for see apneams and Jean main lock gay. Willow Run plant, Jahanatni bombers Bain Jin Germany Jirabi Nai Sakta, the bad main Dusa manufacturers Ko Beck diagaya. Kai Dashgon Takwan aircraft Kabahai Gadian Bani Rahi. Joe assembly lines har 63-minute main Ekb. 24 Liberator Tayar Karditi. Ani civilian production Kalia Betel diagaya. 2010 main Jab General Motors Enias facility Ko Ban Kia. To Bahut Kam Lagon Ko Yad the Ki you could Dornwan Kia Hua the Jinhon Arsenal of Democracy Kada Kia. The Womard or Radiant for C Apni CD Sadis and Jin main be car gay. Welders Keton or factories main lot gay. Riveters Gar Samhon Willie Mahilian or Shikshak Bangay. Jean Mazduran NEA Sut Padden Chamat Kar Daike. Gina German Intelligence the Mumkin Mana. The Wo Dear Gumnami main Chail Gay. Lekin on main Se Kuch Lagon Ko Sab Kuch Yad Raha. For Executive Charles Sorensen, Jean Hone Willow Run Key Assembly Line Ka Design Kia. The any Apni Yadin Leak Car Chodi. Jisman Unhone Apni Teams Kia Plabian Ko Darj Kia. Kaiser Ka Shipyards Main Com Karn Whale Mazduran. Any you Kababi Dashgon Tak Miln Joan. Kalia Reunion Sangaton Ban Irake. America Bar Key Factories Main Com Karn. Walima Heelan Ko Kirker Saman Mila. Saul 2000 main Richmond Shipyards. Kashal Par Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historical Park Stapik Kiagaya. Takiunk Yagde and Ko Yad Rakajasake. Joe Kuch Unhone Hazel Kia. Uska Sundesh Bulna Nai Chahi. America Ko Lecker German Galat and Daza Serve Intelligence. Kinakami Nai the Baki Kopana Kibi Harti. German Netritva any America Ko Deka. Lekenwai Deka Joe Wo Deknachati. Eknarm. Bikrahua, Anna Shazenhin Desh Jo Jang Kalayak Naida. Unhone Wo Nai Deka Jo Asal Main Maljade. Exoda Hua Daitya, Jis Pasashal Industrial Shakti, Sangathanik Abiliat or Insani Dridati. Jo Jag Jane Kabad Roka Nai Ja Saktada. Japan Ka Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Jinhone Pearl Harbor Hamoki Yojna Beneiti. Yabat Samus Jo German Samage Naipe. Unhone America main Padhai Kiti or Uski Kshamatan, Se Wakifta. Pearl Harbor Kubad, Ka Jadahai Ki Yamamoto, and Ishedavani DT Japan. Any Ek Sot Hudaidikyo Jagadiahai, or use Bayanak Songkalp Se Bar Diahai. Germany could pas Kabi be AC Koi Mazbut Awaz Nahi Tijo Sabdani Ki Sulada. Kemki Germany any America Kyo Niamia Hai Nai, Di Ki use Dine Se Sam Dijasake. Liberty Ships or B. 24 bombers Benain Willie Zayadatar factories of Kadam Ho Chukihain. Unmain Kam Karn Whale Mazdur be Idahaz Ka Hisaban Chukhain. Jang Jisa Jeet Main Unkabada Yagdan the AAJSE Lagbag Oth Dashik Peli Semapo Gai. Furby Ekahani Main Rakti High. Kyanki Gala and Daza AJB Jane Lita High. AAJB Desh Apni Dushmanan Ko Kim Akni Ki Bull Cardi Hain. AAJB Nita Apni Darne and Ko Heiki Kat. Some Mage Lead Hain. German High Command any America Kaber. Main Y Mana Jowo Mana Chadada. Or ISI Sak any use Binak Galti Ki Teraf Dekeldia. German Galat Andes Ki Jadhain Gary T. Nazi Vikrat Hara Yesakati T Ki Nasli Shadada High. Rashtriya Shakti Ki Bunyad High. Apni Pervasai Jan Sankhya or African American Nagrakan. South America Apni Ustavesi High. Is Sadant Ko Chinati Dita Daikai Dita. Agar Nazi Nasi Nazaria Saihoda. To America Kamzer Hona Chahida. Islai German Atritva Eni Kud Ko Yasamja Lia Ki America Zeroer Kamzer Haga. Yai Bunyadi Galti T. German Ranidgron Eni Peli Hai Apna Natija Te Karlia. Or for use Sai Sapkarn. Kalia Sabut Dun Lage. Unho 1939 made America Ki Tayari Ki Kamideki. Oman Lia Ki Americans Kabi Puri Terra Tayar Hai Nai Ho Sokt. Unhon America Ki Vivideki or Nishkirsh Nikolia Ki Americans Ekjet Nai Ho Pange. Unhon American Suvida or Aram Keo Deka or Yaman Lia Ki Americans Tayag Nai Karsokt. Yatina Natij Galasabahu. Americans Eni AC Tetsi Esi Tayari Ki. Jo Jishi Eni Sochibi Nai Ti. Americans Eni Yukaprayas Kagurd Heritangas Ektadaikai. Americans Enies Baladon Dai Joe Pearl Harbor Esi Peli Kopna Esi Perlagt. Lecken German Atripva Yasab Dek Hai Nai Paya. Kyanki Agar Wo Dekta to use Apni Vikard Haraki Banyadi Darnayan Keo Kodnapada. Idas Kudkeo Dorada Nahi Lekkanuski Gadi Main Tamamel Hodahai. Gene Generals or Admirals any American Padan Ko Ankton Keo Propaganda Kach Kar Yudadia. Gene Hon American Ladaka Kshamata Par Hungsiadai. Or Gene Hon Yamanaki San Sampanata German Siniki Primpara Ki Barpai Nai Karsakti. Wo Morklog Naida. Wo Kashal. Or Anabhavshi Professionals the Lekin Apni Pervagrahan Keo Sabutan Par Hobby Hon Dia. Unhon America Keo Ways High Decajays Wo Apni Sak Kuzariai Pechan Peta. Whereas America Keo Nazrandas Car Dia Joa Saw Main Mauja Tijaj O Industrial Shukti Any Nazi Germany Keo Kukuldia. Wo Keen Esi High Up Pan Naiwi. Yeah Richmond Kuz Shipyard Mazdaran SEIE. Joe Dinrat Lagatar Com Cardi Rai. Willow Run Key Assembly Line Workers SEIE. Gene Hon Aircraft at Nitetsi SE Banai. Kijishi Any Sociabi Nahida. Yes Shukti Un Kisanan Dekandaran or Shikshaken SEBIE. Gene Hon Uniforms Pain or Lad Nasika. Ya Log Koi Superman Nahida. Ya BSM Log did Gene Hon Parastician Any Jab Majburkia. To Saturn Komkai. Gar Samhon Willie Mahilian Joe Welders Bonnie. Unhon Kabi Sosha. Be Nahi the Kiwo Factories, Main Com Karenji. Kisan Joe Sinik Bane. Unhon Kabi Kopen be Nahi Ki Tiki Samundran Keo Par Karka Ladna Padega. Bureaucrats Joe Logistics Officers Bane. Unhon Kabi Sosha to be Nahi the Ki Lakon Tun Samin. Mad Dweep. Kaparla Jana Haga. Furby Unhon Yasabkia. Unhon A Skills Seek Joe Pelikabi Nahi Janida. Ace Cash Sahan Kai Joe Kabi Amid Nahi Kaida. Ace Com Kai Joe Experts Kali and Mumkinna. Or Jab Ukadamhwa. To Zyadatar Log Apni Ames and Dagi Main Lokke. Or Joe Kia Uski Bear Main Zyadabat Naiki. German Galat and Dazasol. Main Inzanik Shamata Keo Samaj Main Nakam Renada. Hitler Any Americans Keo Deka. Or Surf Unki Simeon Keo Hai Deka. Usnun Ki Vikas Ki Kshamata. Parastishan Kasat Dawn Ki Kshamata. Or Mushkalin Ka Samnakarn Ki Kshamata Keo Nahi Deka. Usan Shanti Kasame Ko America Keo. Dabu Ka Neche Jo American Naklega. Uski Soft Galat Miladia. Yai Shade Sabs Mahatmapern Sikai. Desh Surf Apni Daikni Wali Shukti Esi Nai. Balkians Unik Shamana or Parastishan Esi Thane Ki Kshamana Esi Mop and Chahi. Samaj Thur Matran Part Harat Nayot. Samajik Sansthayan Thur Nahi Rahdi. Jo Kshamtain Shanti Kasame Daikai Dedi Hain. Zorori Nai Ki Wo You Kadoran Bisi Maho. Ek Desh Jo Ek Pal Kam Lagdahai. Wo Ego Pal Majbut Ho Saktahai. Agar Uski Lagon Manika or Sengathanik Shamana. Ho Sadhan Mobilize Karn Ki. Germany Any Apni Senasalin Ki Tayari. Kubad B'nai It. Wehrmacht. Jo 1939 Main Poland Par Hamlakara Hiti. Usan Dashikon Ki Yojna. Training or Punjanavesh Ka Natijada. German Ranidikaran Ka Mana. The Kia Head Start Nerni Acta. Or Koibi Deshitni Tetsiesi is Gap. Keo Pura Nahi Kar Sakta. Yen Daza Galata. America Any Ye Gap Surf Kuch Mahino Main Pura Kardia. Ye German Quality Se Mil Kar Nai. Jo Salem Main Ho Sakti T. Balki American Abundance Kuzariai German Quantity Keo Prabavik Karkakia. American Tarika German Tarik Se Alag the Cam Elegant Kam Susagit, Lekanok Herkers Iota Prapavi. Hitler Any America Ko Deka, or Surf Ek Kam, Ho Chuka Desh Deka Jo Ek Jutnai Ho Sakta. Wo Galat America Dek Rahada. Jo America Main Rockta the, Wo Hitler Kapervagracia Lagda. Yeah, wo America the Joe, Kuch High Dino main ships, or Kuch High Gant main bombers Bana Saktada. Joe ne Barty Hugh John Okeo Mahino, main Yukalia Tayar Kar Didada. Joe Harkeo Sakar Usiklita, or be Maj Boot Ho Karlot Adada. Yeah, America. Asli America, German standards ku Izabasi be via Vastit, Avia Vastit, or Prabavit Nahi Lagdada. Lekin Yed Jeet Gaia. Agar Apko Yekahani Hamari Terra Prabavit Lagi. The Thoda Salmon Nikokar is video ko like carrion. Isi Humian Dusservish viewed Keybull Jaikahani and Ko Lagon Tak Bahunchain main Madad Malaji. Subscribe Karkin Anki Idahas Se Jude Rihian. Har Kahani main Rakti High, or Har Ek Ko Yad Rakad Janachai. Hum Opki Feedback Khan Azar Kardi Hain. Nache Comment main Batain Ki AP Kanasi Dek Rai Hain. Hamari Community Poor Globe main Philai High. Veterans Se Lekker Idahas Kashakin Lagon Tak. AAP Yahan Jishi Kaz. Cheese Kahisahain. Danyavad Dekni Kalia or Danyavad and Kahanian Ko Zindarakni Kulia. Jo Idas Apnapsuna. Wo Surf Shake Shanik Nai High. Isamace Mahatvapern Path Chupain. Jo AJB Prabavit Kardi Hain. Deshe AJB Axar Y Deklit Hain. Jo Wo Deknichat Hain. Jo Asal Main Hayaski Bahai. Nita Bian Kshamatan Ko Nazarandas Kard Deet Hain. Jo Wo Samage Nai Pade. Ace Galadan Days and Key. Kimad be Utni High Bari High.